first of all, there were some rumors that there was some tension between Reed and Spieth, and maybe they didn't want to play with each other, but I think you're right.
Jordan Spieth has finally broken the silence, and his comments have sent shockwaves through the golf world. What looked like an old Ryder Cup storyline is actually a deeper tale of egos, rivalries, and decisions that reshaped Team USA. Hidden truths, quiet tensions, and unspoken frustrations. And today, I'll reveal the real story behind him and Patrick Reed. Early synergy. Jordan Spieth and Patrick Reed's early partnership wasn't just productive. It was one of those rare Ryder Cup combinations that felt engineered for pressure. When they first teamed up in 2014, the pairing made immediate sense. Spieth brought the polished, methodical precision of a player who thrives on rhythm and calculation, while Reed supplied the raw spark, the emotional ignition that pushes matches into a different gear. Inside US team rooms, captains spoke about them as complementary forces, one steadying the pace, the other raising the temperature. Their early run, particularly across 2014 and 2016, delivered exactly what Team USA needed. They didn't just win points, they set tones for entire sessions, often feeding off crowds and controlling momentum with almost visible duality. What made their chemistry so compelling is also what planted the early tension. Spieth's persona, measured, soft-spoken, the guy who answers questions with care, contrasted sharply with Reed's Captain America bravado, a persona built on confrontation and chest-beating moments that crowds remember long after scoreboards reset. For a time, that dynamic worked. Reed thrived on big-stage theatrics, and Spieth played the disciplined counterweight. But teammates and coaches later hinted that even successful partnerships carry friction when expectations build season after season. Pairings at a Ryder Cup are never just about who plays best together. They become statements, endorsements, even political markers inside team environments. By 2016, the results were still strong, but cracks appeared in the form of pairing debates, behind-the-scenes preferences, and a growing spotlight on the pair's contrast. All of that created a fragile foundation, one that would be tested sharply when future captains made decisions that didn't match Reed's expectations. The early success masked deeper differences that would later re-emerge under far more public circumstances. Ryder rupture. The breaking point arrived in 2018 at Le Golf National, where the US team walked into a European fortress and left with more questions than answers. If there was a single storyline that dominated the American postmortem, it was the unexpected decision to split Spieth and Reed, a pairing widely assumed to be automatic.
One last thing from the Arnold Palmer Invitational, Patrick Reed. Yep, this guy always seems to make the news, probably just because they don't like him very much.
Reed entered the week believing the partnership would continue. Instead, Captain Jim Furyk paired Spieth with Justin Thomas and rotated Reed sparingly. The surprise wasn't simply tactical. It cut directly into Reed's sense of identity as a Ryder Cup catalyst. When the sessions ended and the US lost badly, Reed didn't hold back. He told the New York Times he was blindsided, directly suggested that Spieth didn't want to play with him, and accused the team of operating on a buddy system. That level of candor triggered an immediate media spiral. Spieth stayed controlled in contrast, deflecting questions and framing the decisions as strategic rather than personal. Yet the damage was done. Reed's public comments, coming so soon after a bruising team defeat, cast the split as something deeper than a captain's choice. Social media, analysts, and even some teammates weighed in, feeding a narrative that the team environment had fractured. Reed's wife added pressure with posts questioning leadership decisions, further keeping the story alive. What might have been a quiet disagreement inside a team room became a defining flashpoint for the next several years of US golf discourse. The idea of a rift between two of America's top players became too convenient, too headline-ready for the media to ignore. And once the storyline stuck, every future Ryder Cup cycle seemed fated to revisit it. Before we go deeper into how this feud kept resurfacing years later, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of these breakdowns, especially when the golf world tries to hide the real story behind the headlines. Public barbs. Once the 2018 fallout hit daylight, the public narrative took on a momentum of its own. Reed's quotes, particularly the pointed line that "the issue's obviously with Jordan not wanting to play with me," became replay staples across every golf outlet.
Because I feel like I've been painted completely different than who I really am just because of my top 5 comment.
They painted him as a player not just frustrated by captaincy decisions, but personally wounded by what he perceived as a teammate's rejection. Those remarks were dissected endlessly, framed as evidence of deeper animosity, and paired with Reed's reputation for embracing confrontation. Meanwhile, older Spieth quotes resurfaced as context. Lines about opponents who stick the knife in after big moments were suddenly interpreted as subtle commentary on Reed's theatrics, even though Spieth had never explicitly named him. The combination of Reed's outspoken frustration and Spieth's more surgical critiques created a dynamic tailor-made for sports media. One hot-blooded, one ice-cooled. This was amplified by Reed's history with controversy. The viral rules drop exchange where he quipped, "I guess my name needs to be Jordan Spieth," became part of the feud's highlight reel. Analysts viewed it as Reed leaning into the storyline, whether intentionally or not. Spieth, for his part, continued speaking in controlled phrases about team unity and mutual respect. But even his calmness was interpreted as a message that he believed Ryder Cup choices should be handled privately, not turned into public battlegrounds. With each interview, clip, or reheated quote, the media built a running subplot around the duo, one that outlasted the event itself. The narrative became bigger than the original disagreement, framing the pair not simply as former partners, but as contrasting archetypes in American golf. Surface piece. The months after the 2018 Ryder Cup brought attempts at public reconciliation. At Torrey Pines in early 2019, cameras caught Spieth and Reed sharing a relaxed pre-round embrace, a moment that quickly went viral as supposed proof that tensions had eased. Both players later said the situation had been exaggerated and that conversations behind closed doors had smoothed things over. Within the U.S. team ecosystem, there was pressure to mend fences, shared practice rounds, captain-led bonding rituals, and the collective understanding that Ryder Cup chemistry hinges on at least the appearance of unity. On paper, the feud seemed to be settling into the rearview mirror, but headlines kept returning. Part of that was Reed's personality. His willingness to speak candidly, challenge narratives, and push back when he felt slighted. When Reed made sharp comments in unrelated interviews, the feud resurfaced in the public imagination, even if neither player referenced it directly. Media outlets knew the storyline still attracted attention, so even small interactions, a cool handshake, a neutral expression, a distant pairing on a tee sheet, were scrutinized for meaning. This created a loop. Moments of détente, followed by renewed speculation, even when the players insisted the issue was over. Teammates described the relationship as functional, not fraught, not warm, but not openly hostile. In many ways, the feud became less about ongoing conflict and more about the gravitational pull of a narrative that had become too entrenched to fully disappear. The storyline endured because it symbolized something bigger. The delicate balance between individuality and cohesion in elite team golf, shifting landscape. By the mid-2020s, the backdrop had changed. Patrick Reed's pivot toward live golf and the broader splintering of professional golf loyalties gave their past friction new resonance. Reed, already polarizing thanks to past controversies and outspoken media posture, became all the more a symbolic figure of disruption, a change agent, visible in interviews, social media provocations, and league-hopping debates.
I don't have any issues with Jordan when it comes right down to it. I don't care if I like the person I'm paired with or if the person likes me, as long as it works and it sets up for the team's success. He and I know how to make each other better. I thought Furyk might go back with the groups. For somebody as successful for somebody to be successful in the Ryder Cup as I am, I don't think it's smart to split us up and sit me twice.
Meanwhile, Jordan Spieth charted a quieter course. Injury setbacks, form swings, and a shift away from constant headline friction softened his presence. For fans and media alike, the Reed-Spieth story turned into a kind of cautionary tale, a reminder that legacy isn't just about wins, but about relationships, optics, and what a player represents off the tee. As talk of future Ryder Cups rose, commentators revisited the 2018 rupture not as old history, but as an object lesson. Pairing decisions, once regarded purely tactical, were again scrutinized under the lens of personality clashes and public relations. Some insiders suggested that modern U.S. team selection, already under pressure from fractured loyalties, sponsorship shifts, and new tour alternatives, would inevitably take into account more than just statistical performance. In that context, every handshake, every media quiet day, every public comment risks becoming a headline. For Spieth and Reed, their shared past now reads less as a chapter of two players and more as a micro-history of the shifting dynamics of pro golf, where alliances, reputations, and timing often matter as much as raw talent or match play records. Lasting lessons. Beyond the personal story, the Spieth-Reed saga highlights significant truths about team sport, media scrutiny, and the fragility of success under spotlight. In elite teams, especially in tournaments like the Ryder Cup, chemistry and perception matter deeply. Captains such as Jim Furyk have to balance match play fit, personality compatibility, and the invisible pressures of ego, expectation, and public image. The decision in 2018 to break up a high-performing duo, even if based on strategic calculations, revealed how much weight non-golfing factors, history, media narratives, politics, can carry. For players, the lesson is stark. Even a strong track record can be overshadowed by personal dynamics once things go off course. One publicly aired complaint, one misunderstood comment, or one perceived slight can ripple, shaping reputations for years. It underlines the importance of communication, restraint, and awareness of how internal decisions may play out in public. For organizers and team leaders, the saga becomes a case study in process design, transparency, clear rationale behind pairings, and managing expectations, both inside locker rooms and in media coverage. Looking ahead, the Reed-Spieth story is likely to remain a touchstone each time U.S. team chemistry is under discussion. Their arc from trusted tandem to public conflict to uneasy detente will keep being referenced whenever selection controversy, personality clashes, or tour allegiance decisions emerge in pro golf. It stands as a reminder that in modern sport, legacy isn't just built on performance, but also on diplomacy, public perception, and the capacity to manage people as much as performance. The tale of Jordan Spieth and Patrick Reed is more than a squabble between two top golfers. It's a microcosm of how modern professional golf has evolved. It shows how success can mask tension, how a single pairing decision can spiral into long-lasting narratives, and how players' identities off the course can influence their fate on it. As the game continues shifting, with new tours, shifting loyalties, and growing media scrutiny, their story remains a potent warning. On the fairway, personality and politics can matter just as much as the swing. That's it for today. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the truth behind Spieth and Reed, tap like, drop a comment with the next rivalry you want exposed, and subscribe for more behind-the-scenes stories the mainstream golf media never tells you.